Hi there, I'm Erica. I help people find unique ways of building their home through being their own general contractor, basically being an owner builder. You do this legally, ethically, very sturdy homes, and you do it with getting your permits, but you end up saving so much money. In our case, we went from being quoted 480,000 to reducing some of the things that we wanted, self-contracting and only paying $180,000 to build in Texas. So if we can do it, you absolutely can too. I'm here to share 4 different ways that you can make this happen. And number one is mindset. You've got to believe that if you want a new home build, you can make it happen because there is nothing in this world that you cannot do if you have enough faith that you will and you find the proper steps. You confide in somebody to be your mentor and you take that belief that you will end up taking a vision into reality. The very first step we took with mindset was going on a coffee date, planning out a sketch of our home. Then we sat with our kids, my husband and I, and we kept visualizing the house. We went online, looked at exterior house plans, we went on Pinterest and got visuals. Then we placed all that together and went to sit with a local architect who would make sure that we made the plans just right. She included the plumbing, electrical, water, the measurements, everything was precise and the way that it would be authorized by our city and our county where we live in Texas. So you want to make sure that you get those architectural plans verified. All of that gets you started with owner builder so that you have the right foundation. You make multiple copies of them because you'll use them in so many different ways through the process. The next thing that we did was after sitting in with the architect, we reminded ourselves that God is going to provide. We don't have enough money in the bank. So we don't have enough money just yet when we were starting. And now we get to live in this farmhouse. You can look at the progress in another one of my videos in my channel as proof. But basically, we took that architectural plan and we told and asked and prayed that God would provide. And sure enough, I ended up with a second job at the company I worked for. I was working remote, which was a blessing because it allowed me a little bit of flexibility. But I say a little because sometimes I was up until 2 a.m. working to catch up with a lot of the things from having double job with that same company to try to pay off and buy materials and labor cash instead of having to get way too many loans. We didn't want to end up in way too much debt. I know that doesn't seem realistic to a lot of people that you can pay some things cash, but just like you go and buy maybe a laptop, multiple water bottles, some pieces for the house, they're not that expensive if you start learning how to get organized. And that was the next thing. We made sure that my husband and I, when we were putting in all this effort, he was working extra hours. We were balancing how to take care of our kids together while trying to get work done. We ended up trying our best to stay very organized. So, between phone notes, checklists that I would create, and also the spreadsheet that I created. So, I have a very detailed spreadsheet on how you input labor costs, material costs, everything needed in order to be successful at building. So we would input everything on there and get so organized to make sure we didn't miss anything or go above budget. During the time of building, what also helped was not having a huge mortgage or rental apartment payment. So I recommend that if you live in a house and you're trying to build another, if you're able to sell and downsize, but make sure you found your downsize first, whether it's a cabin, a townhouse, a RV, or like a temporary trailer home in your property, or living with a family member, but having a timeline. We're going to do this for 6 months, for a year. How long is it going to take to build? So you reduce your monthly expenses so that money goes also into the house so you don't keep getting too many loans. And I also show you so many ways within the training on how to get all the money you need to make that home a reality. Because at some point you will notice we're running out of money, we still need the interior, or we need to buy windows, we don't have all the cash up front. It was the same for us. Even though we had our first home and we had sold it, we had used that for prior debt, for paying off our cars, for things that we invested in. So we didn't have a whole lot of money to start out with. We only had enough to set the foundation. But I will show you how to get there with those steps as well. So have faith and stay organized. And why does it matter to do it this way? Why does owner builder help? Well, because when you're not paying huge monthly payments, you can eventually become a millionaire, retire early, and get more freedom in your time. So it's a temporary building sacrifice for a short-term sacrifice for a long-term investment into your future. What does that mean? A harder today means a lot easier tomorrow, because we worked really hard during those. For us, it was 2 years of subdividing because our land wasn't prepped, 1 year of building, or 11 months, really. But we worked really hard during that time. And now we work hard on things that we want to do because we have our home. So now I get to run my business instead of working for a company. I really like that. I'm very grateful. I get to homeschool my daughter. My husband helps out. He got to go back to school. So a lot of dreams that we had held back in our youth, we now get to do because we pursued home ownership in this way, where you don't have that excessive debt that's holding you down your whole future. So, home ownership this way will also allow you to retire in a much better way, because every month, instead of paying a really expensive mortgage, you can put that extra money into a 401k, Roth IRA, a teacher retirement fund, or a high yield savings account. So, doing upfront expenses, getting smaller loans, cash flowing your way through, it's going to be so beneficial. And I'll also show you how you can get a mortgage after you build. So those tips are within the course. Don't worry, I have you all covered on that. So why do you want to settle for markups? You shouldn't. There is going to be competitive bids, and you will learn how to deal with that so that you're not enslaved to 30 years of loans that have high interest payments. So say you get a loan for your home that you buy at 300,000, you end up paying 700,000 by year 30. Instead, if you get $100,000 loan and you end up paying maybe 280,000. So it's just so much smaller in a lifetime if you really look at the numbers. Is this idea of being your own general self contractor, having strong faith, and putting in the effort and following a checklist controversial? Absolutely. There's people out there that want you to pay the huge tag price and that don't believe you can do this. That's not my case. I think that you can do this because we've built through legacy. My grandparents did it, my parents did it, my friends have done it. We've done this and it works. Does it take effort? It absolutely does, because you're still getting the inspections, you're still getting the permits, and you're making sure it's done right. So it does take effort. Does it take patience and persistence? 100%. But you're well organized, and you're going to take from my experience, and you're going to take away any errors that my husband and I made, because you're fast tracking yourself to the knowledge that we wish we had in more detail, and where we could input things more easily, check things off, and look at the whole giant picture. That's what I provide for you. Does it take faith? I think it takes faith above everything, that you are going to have something that's unseen except for paper into reality, and it is so worth it. This is my built in bookshelf, one of my favorite things. And just like that, every detail in the house had a touch of something that we did in order to make it happen. So, where do you even start? I would say to dive into, and I will show you more about this, ericabalderas.com/enroll, and I'll put the description down below. And that's where you get the full training. It is really low cost. I made it accessible to everyone because I don't just want to help one or two people. That's what I was taught by a mentor. Just charge so much so you get your money right away. But I decided I'm going to charge really little and allow a lot of people to have access to it so that they can get themselves into a home. That is my dream, that people get what they need so that they can have a beautiful shelter the way them and their family desire, without the burden of huge debt. And if my husband and I can do it, you absolutely can too. All the resources are within here. You can get through it in under 2 hours, but it is detailed enough. There's PDFs. I wanted to make it work for working parents, parents that are busy with their children, parents that maybe have other so many things that they have to do and they don't want to stress. And all the information is in there. I believe it'll be so helpful. So here's an example of what it would look like.